I'm going to show you about Node, TypeScript, Express, and how to use the Node debugger with these tools. I'm going to go as fast as possible. So here we have a directory with a README that has some tips that are going to allow me to get through this as quickly and concisely as possible. Step one, let's turn this folder into a Node project by issuing this command to the computer. Next, let's add these npm packages to our Node project. When those are done installing, we are going to issue this command to generate a configuration file for our TypeScript compiler. What is a compiler? A compiler is a computer program that takes code written in one programming language and translates it into the code of another computer programming language. In this case, we're translating TypeScript into JavaScript. So here we go. Look at that. We're going to get this tsconfig.json file. This is the file where we can configure the compiler. And I'm going to tweak this file in two ways. I'm going to add source maps. That's good for debugging. And then I am going to customize the directory that I want all of the generated JavaScript to be thrown into. Now, let's write some TypeScript. So here we go. And TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript. So plain old JavaScript is a great starting point for learning TypeScript. So because VSCode is integrated with TypeScript, we start to get some complaints from the editor. Sometimes they don't mean anything, and sometimes they do, but I'm just giving you the feel for it. This is a high-level overview of these four tools. So here, look at that. I get some VSCode editor help in fixing my issues because it's very well integrated with TypeScript, etc., etc., etc. Right, so TypeScript needs to be translated into JavaScript in order for us to run it. And this is the command that we can use to translate our TypeScript into JavaScript. You'll see a build folder gets generated. And look at that, it has the exact same JavaScript that does the exact same thing our TypeScript code should do. And we also get a source map that tells us which lines of the generated JavaScript correspond to which lines of the TypeScript we were writing. So next I am going to show you two pro tips. I'm going to show you how to auto format your code and how to run your code with debugging. So here are the pro tips. I'm going to create a folder called .VSCode. This is kind of VSCode specific, but the same concept should apply to your editor of choice. Here I'm going to do two files, one called settings.json and the other called, there we go. Right. And then I'm going to show you settings.json first. So this is cool. Check this out. I put this code here. And then when I'm editing my TypeScript, right, I can not stress about formatting anymore, right? I save and it auto formats, right? Don't format your own code. Have the computer do it for you. Pro tip number one. Second, let me show you how to run your TypeScript code with debugging enabled. And I also like having the computer auto restart my code for me. I use NodeMon most of the time. Here is the configuration file for NodeMon. I am using so that I start my generated JavaScript with a debug server. That's how I think of it. This is going to start a debug server with my code, and then VSCode has a debug client that I can interact with my debug server with in order to step through my code. So let me show you an example of what I am talking about. So I'll put a debugger here, save. You see how it auto formats? So fantastic, right? Aha. So now I am going to add this script to my package.json so that I can run my program with nodemon. npm run dev server, right? And we should get our output 5. Look at that, beautiful, right? So 2 plus 3 equals 5. What about 2 plus 2? That should be auto restarts 4, right? Have the computer do all the work. So now I'm going to stop this. I'm going to use the code that I put into the launch.json. Oh, I never put it there. Let me make sure it's there. This is going to tell VSCode how to launch the debugger for my program. It automatically picks it up, and I can run the debugger, the debug client, right? And now when I run my program, it should why didn't it work, man? Let me try one more time. Let's see if I restart it. There you go. Sometimes I guess, I don't know what happened there, but it worked this time. So I started the debug client on VSCode. That's how I'm thinking of it. And then I restarted my Node server that automatically compiles my TypeScript into JavaScript. It uses tsnode to do that. tsnode is a package that automatically compiles your TypeScript to JavaScript and then runs it with the node command, and it runs it with a debug server. And you can see that I have been paused, and I can inspect my code. What is A? A is 2, right? I can test things out. A plus B should be 4, right? And et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's how you debug, right? So that was fantastic.